Welcome to the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass with Brett Henderson, founder of Strategic Wealth Endeavor. We've created a community of veteran entrepreneurs just like you who are ready to help you succeed. Our podcast provides expert advice and resources so you can overcome any obstacle in your way. With the help of Brett and veteran guest experts, you can build a battle-ready business mindset to take your company to the next level. Thank you for listening to the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass. Now, on to the show.
Welcome to this first Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass with your host, Brett Henderson. I'm Patrice Sikora. During this initial show, we will learn more about Brett from Brett. So, we need to start at the beginning, right? Brett, what got you into the world of finance to start?
Oh, that's interesting first question, right? It's going back in almost 20 years now. But I always loved investing, loved the ideas of it, loved the stock market. I didn't understand any of it, especially when I was younger. But my father was an accountant and ran the family business. So I understood accounting and business, just the concept of it. And then when I went to college, even though my father and I got along like oil and water, I realized he had some smart decisions and a good career path, and that accounting is pretty much the language of business. So I went to school for accounting, and then I understood more about how business worked and learned about stock prices, preferred, common stock, different types of ownership, the accounting for it. And it was fascinating. Realize you can make money investing in stocks and how they work and growing companies, whatnot. So it was more of a hobby than you learn in school. First thing you want to do is start your Roth IRA. So second, you have any penny of income, just start saving for the future. So that was ingrained in me. And then I went to the Marine Corps, because that's a whole other story we can chat about. But I went to the Marine Corps after college and enjoyed mentoring my young Marines and giving them financial advice and guidance and helping them save. So this is in the late 90s. So my call sign was NASDAQ. That's when the .com bubble was going on. And you could, just your gardener was giving you stock tips back then. Everybody knew something about the market. And that's kind of a telltale sign. When your gardener starts giving you stock tips, you should probably sell everything and go somewhere else for a while. But, that was not a recommendation, by the way. I'm not allowed to give blanket recommendations.
No,
definitely not. But long story, your question was how to get in the industry. And so coming to the Marine Corps, I obtained my master's degree in business from Boston University. I was stationed in Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. And on the weekends, this is during peacetime, this is before the Second Gulf War, you really had nothing else to do on base if you're a single officer or Marine in general, besides go out and get in trouble in town. So Boston University had a satellite campus where they would actually fly professors from BU down to North Carolina on the weekends. And I would sit there and crank out my master's degree in business for 2 years. You'd sit there Saturday and Sunday every other weekend for 8 hours a day and just do work. And that was a good way to get my master's degree. And when I was attending classes, then you start getting calls from recruiters because the university would put your name on a list. And I received a call from a Navy captain, Joseph Hebert. I'll never forget him. He was a Navy captain from New Jersey. He had the Jersey accent. And he said, Brett, I'm going to get you, throw you down on the mat and rough you up, son. And like, whoa, who is this guy? He's like, you think you're Marine, you're tough. Like, you're nothing compared to me. That was Joseph Hebert. And he worked for Merrill Lynch, which was headquartered in New Jersey at the time. And so at the time, Merrill Lynch had a very detailed, robust recruiting program. And I actually did my kind of investment thesis in my investments class, in my master's degree on Merrill Lynch at the time. And this was 2002. And actually, Stan O'Neill was the CEO at the time, and he was cutting. If you remember, 2000 was a down year for the stock market. 2001 was a down year for stock. 2002, we had 3 down years in a row. You couldn't give a stock away. And so Stan O'Neill was cutting the workforce by 10%. That's what you do in kind of bad times. And actually decided not to go work in the financial service industry when I left the Marine Corps because of that reason. And there was another company called Cintas. They're out of Cincinnati, Ohio. They sell uniforms and they love Marines. And so they recruited me instead. And I did that for 18 months. And then the stock market turned around, and 03, 04, the markets kept coming back. I had a job. Joseph kept calling me. He's like, hey, Brett, get over here. Hey, Brett, get over here. Hey, Brett, get over here. So finally, I'm like, leading people in corporate America is nice, but this is kind of where I wanted to always be. I was interested in investing and in that piece. So I made the move in April of 2004 to Merrill Lynch. And that was almost, 18 years ago now. And that's how I got into it.
Wow. But now I think your reason for going into the Marines and your time in the Marines does play a big role in who you are and who you serve. Tell me about that.
It's very true. So I grew up in a three-light farm town in Pennsylvania, a little town called Coopersburg, Pennsylvania. And my grandfather actually was a chemist at B.F. Goodrich that came up with the compound for modern car tires. He left B.F. Goodrich, started his own company called Associated Rubber in Quakertown, Pennsylvania. And it was a manufacturing company that my father then inherited and took over, and was, when we're getting along, grooming me to go there. And unfortunately, my father used money as a control mechanism. And this is what you're going to do. And if you don't do what he says, he's using money as kind of like a puppet master. And I don't like being controlled. I don't think anyone likes being controlled. So the more he tried to use money to control me, the more I said, I want to be financially independent and not need you, not go your path. It's my life, my choice. And I'm going to build my own career path. And unfortunately, like so many other family-owned businesses, they don't make it through the second or especially third generation because of family dynamics. And this is another classic example of a family business that did not make it because of that reason. So having the pressure of control from my father really pushed me to be independent. And in some senses, he didn't care at all. I didn't have the overbearing parents like, do your homework and make sure you have good grades. They do what you want. And I realized if I didn't study and I didn't have good grades, I wouldn't be able to go to college. I wouldn't get out of this three-light farm town. I'd be working in the local gas station pumping gas, which is what you have in Pennsylvania. Actually, people pump your gas and do in California. It's kind of nice. But I knew I didn't want to do that. And I knew I wanted to go to college to give myself more opportunities to get out and build a career for myself outside of the little farm town. So having a condescending, controlling parent that uses money as a weapon really pushed me to be independent and to grow my own financial independence and not rely on anyone except for myself for my own financial security.
All right. And the Marines?
Oh, well, the Marine Corps, that goes right along with it. So actually, my father was supposed to pay for my college and offered to. However, I watched what he was doing my sister, the same thing, and he was using money again as control. So every quarter or semester, he would pay late intentionally. My sister had to go in front of these financial review boards. They threatened to throw her out of college. And I'm like, I'm not going through that. I'm not going to let him have the joy of using money again to control. So I said, I need an out, I need a scholarship. And that's how I looked at the Marine Corps originally, actually the Navy originally, and then learned about the Marine Corps, the Marine Corps option within the Navy ROTC program. So I applied for, worked my butt off, and was awarded an NROTC scholarship at Tulane University. And once I had that, I no longer had any financial control from my father. And it was my life, my career, my degree, my choice. Everything I wanted and to accomplish in life was my own making, my own decision, my own action, my own efforts, no one but mine. And that's really, as we talk about my life, it's everything we have. It's your life. You make it your choice. Everything you do or do not do in the morning, you make a decision to get out of bed, to put your shoes on, to brush your teeth, to not brush your teeth, to work out, to not work out, to eat healthy, to not eat healthy. Every day is just a myriad of decisions about what you want to do and where you want to be. Either you're moving forwards or you're moving backwards. And I chose to move forward. And I knew that I couldn't rely on anyone and I couldn't make excuses if I didn't do something and I didn't make something happen because I didn't do it myself. So that kind of drove me a little bit to go in the Marine Corps, have financial independence, believe it or not. And
that leads me into your clients. Who is your ideal client? What type of client do you I won't say prefer, but prefer to work with?
Yeah, this has been perplexing me for 18 years of my career. Everyone's in this industry says you need a niche, you got to specialize, you got to work with, look at your quote unquote book of business, look at your clientele, who do you have? And that's your niche and drive after that niche. And we could talk about how I built my clientele, but it was really through referrals, 100% referrals in a myriad of industries from accounting, legal, manufacturing, service, restaurants, automotive, I mean, you name it, insurance, everything, because they were what was referred to me. So I was like, what's your specialty? I looked at my diverse book of clients and my specialty is everything. And it wasn't until recently several months ago, which was the catalyst for this podcast even starting. I went to a conference called Jolt, and it's through one of our marketing affiliates. And you go to the conferences, you sit there and people talk at you the whole time, and you nod, and you're going to do something different, and you never do. And you have a bunch of ideas. You maybe remember one or two and implement one if you're lucky. But at the end of the conference, I remember Giselle, who we'll talk more about, is an amazing member of my team, does everything for us. She's like, hey, you need to sit down and talk to this guy right now. And at the end of the conference, it was kind of a culminating event where they took the best ideas, best practices, and then you say, how do you actually implement it? How do you take action? Because without action, ideas are useless. They're just ideas. You can't get results unless you take action. And so I was sitting there with the gentleman. He's like, well, you got to have a niche. Like, here we go again. And he's like, who do you work with? And I said, everybody in all these different industries, just how it happened. And he's like, well, who do you enjoy working with? And recently I've had a couple introductions, referrals for more veteran entrepreneurs, veteran business owners. And I actually really enjoy these guys because I am one as well. Now full disclosure, I'm a combat veteran, but I'm a Marine veteran, Marine officer, and did my time. And once you have that common background, you've been through the training, you've been through experience, you've had good days and bad days, you have things you want to do, things you not want to do, but it's just with you for the rest of your life. And no matter where you go, no matter where you are, you meet someone who's a veteran, you just have an instantaneous bond. There's a certain level of trust. And it doesn't matter if you're a Marine, Army, Sailor, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, no, Space Force. That's a whole nother interesting where the future's going, but it is what it is.
Not today, yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter. We've all gone through some training. We all have a bond, and it just gives that instantaneous credibility and trust, which you don't have. It's funny, you meet someone who was not in the military and I was going to go in the military. I was thinking about it, or my uncle was in it, or my grandfather was a Marine, and that piece, it's just not the same as actually doing it. So people who don't do it. And if you've done it, you've done it, and it's with you for life. So I made that decision right then and there. I had that moment, that epiphany of clarity. This is who I want to work with. And this is exactly where I want to be. And that's who I want to work with more going forward. So it's more, yes, it's a veteran is nice, but it's more about the mindset. If you have the mindset to go after something, to do something, to build something, to grow something, that's who I enjoy working with. I enjoy having those conversations. I enjoy figuring, hey, you're having a problem. How do we get around it? It's just an obstacle. Obstacle just creates frustration. It's okay. You got a rock in front of you. Do you go around it? Do you go over it? Do you go under it? Like, how do we get through it? And so that piece, having those conversations and helping someone get around that obstacle, for me, it brings joy, brings happiness. I love doing it. So that's a natural fit for me. So that's why we're now not exclusively working with, but it's almost 90% of who we're working with is the veteran entrepreneurs and or people with like mindsets.
Brett, what do you do for your clients? You sound very passionate about who they are. What do you do for them?
What do we do for our clients? Well, every client's different. Every client's unique. It's like every person's unique. So it's really understanding who they are, where they are. And on top of that, I think a differentiator for us is understanding their values. We have a whole program that helps us understand someone's values, because values and who you are as a human, whether it's spiritual, or your personal thoughts in life, your morals, that drives your actions. That's a factor that helps you in your decision-making process. So understanding everything about someone empowers us to provide the best advice to help them accomplish a goal for them or with them. It's actually, we can't do anything for someone. Someone has to do something on their own. We can just be their guide along the way. So it's really taking a deep understanding of where they are before we recommend anything. But then if someone does decide to engage and work with us, so what do we do? It's really everything. And so I've learned the hard way. You can, and you've probably gone through this. You have a new vendor, service provider, and you have to get things set up. And they send you a form. Here, fill this form out, send it back to me. And you look at this form and like, what the heck is this? It's Greek. And you don't do it because you don't understand it and no one's helping you. And you should do it and you will one day do it, but you'll get to it later after there's other things that you can do easier. So we definitely pride ourselves on not ever doing that for a client, not saying here's a new website, go check it out, or here's this form, go fill it out on your own. It's hand-holding. It's scheduling a call. Let's get on this Zoom. Let's do it together. This means this. This means this. This means this. And so just the hand-holding, the white glove service because not only is it good for client relationships, it's good for getting stuff done. Just a good process to have overall. If you're not controlling the process and you're leaving it to someone else to take their own time to get something done, then that impacts your operations, your productivity, and it could throw you off your game with what you're trying to accomplish. So if you just take the bull by the horns and lead someone down the path that brings them to their own independence, that's what we do. So long story short is everything to help move that ball down the court, so to speak.
You say we. Who's on your team?
Well, that's Giselle. So the amazing Giselle Caime, she's awesome. She's been with me through thick and thin the last few years since we really set up shop and made it all through COVID. And so anyone's going to work with you through COVID when you're working from home and living. She was living with me at the time too. So living me, working with me, and spending 24/7 with me. And that's a good person because I have a big personality. And if you can handle that, you can handle anything. So, but she handles all of our operations, our marketing. She keeps the wheels on the bus, so to speak. So she's amazing. And hopefully we can have her on here with one of our other podcasts.
I do hope so. Definitely.
Yes.
Are you active in the community? What do you do out there?
Well, there's yes and no. Not as active as I'd like to be because there's only so much time in the day. So where I am active, there's a group, we can talk about that, called the Battle Buddy Foundation. And it's founded by a fellow Marine veteran who was actually blown up in an ID attack in Iraq in 2003. His name's Kenny Bass. And actually, I hope he's one of our first guests on the podcast too, to talk about what he does and how he does things. But I found him a couple of years ago as a way to give back to the veteran community. And why do I want to give back to the veteran community, especially if I'm not a combat Marine and I've been out for 20 years? Well, I had my best friend who lived in the same town as I did and I live now in Hermosa Beach. And he and I were the same age. He stayed in the Marine Corps Reserves and actually was a battalion commander of a recon unit, 4th Recon. His name was Lieutenant Colonel Adam Collier. And he had done several tours in Iraq, Afghanistan, and he was the commanding officer of the unit. Like, you don't get higher than this guy in the recon world. And he was a great guy. And he, during the week, his day job, he was a DEA agent here in Los Angeles. And we would have lunch and dinner a couple of times. And I remember sitting there with him, just chatting, like, how you doing, man? He's like, I'm okay. Like, what's up? Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what's next. Like, what do you mean? Well, his command tour was ending. And he's like, I may go back to Afghanistan just to do something. And you could tell he was a little lost. You could tell he didn't have a purpose. I didn't think too much of it because we all get there sometimes and you don't pry. And if I would have pried, it's just not something you do, but if someone wants to share, they'll share. So you're just there. Like, hey, man, you want to talk? I'm here. Yeah, thanks. And that was the last time I spoke with him. And the Saturday after, he went to the same bar, had a couple cocktails, went to Vaughn's grocery shopping, went home, put half his groceries away, took out his will, took out his pistol, and shot himself. And so you hear the 22 a day and you're losing all these veterans. It's one thing when you hear it, but when you actually live it and you lose a friend, that was the catalyst for me to really start re-engaging my Marine heritage and in that community and wanting to get back involved with other veterans. Because I feel if Adam would have had even a dog in his life, something to care for, something to focus on, something to have a purpose to protect and love and provide for, I feel that little bit of purpose would keep him here. And you hear a lot of the veterans that we're losing with PTSD, they don't have a purpose anymore. They get out, they had camaraderie, they had a team, they had a mission, they had something to accomplish, and now they don't. And without that purpose, you just like, why am I here? And then you feel like you're a burden on your family. And if you feel you're a burden and you want to no longer be a burden, that's why we're losing a lot of these guys and gals with PTSD to suicide.
Well, so this organization, yeah.
Sure. So the Battle Buddy Foundation, again, founded by Kenny Bass. We can put the link up or share. It's tbbf.org, the battlebuddyfoundation.org or tbbf.org, Tango, Bravo, Foxtrot.org. And they help veterans that have PTSD obtain a service dog. And so Kenny Bass, he had PTSD and he was almost a statistic. And he then saw another veteran with a service dog and said, how do I get one of these dogs? And he'll tell you his story. We should have him on the podcast. He's much more eloquent about his story than I am. But he's like, I saw this other veteran with a dog. He's like, I need to get one of those dogs. So he found a way to get a dog, and it saved his life. His dog Atlas has saved his life. So he made, well, this dog can save my life. It could probably save other veterans' lives who need a purpose. And so that became his purpose of helping other veterans with PTSD find a service dog to save them. And so that's his calling. And so that's become kind of a catalyst for me to help him. It's my way of healing through the loss of my friend. If I can help raise funds through making donations to his foundation, through doing business, especially with other veterans, and give to his organization, that's a win-win for me. To put things in perspective, one dog takes about 2 years to train. It costs about $30,000 a year. So to train a dog, just to get them ready for a veteran, takes about $60,000 in 2 years. So it's not a cheap task by any means, but if we can make some donations, every dollar counts, get enough for some dog food, $500, something. So I've kind of made it I made it my purpose to give back to that organization. I know there's hundreds, if not thousands, of veteran organizations out there. I would just say for anyone listening, find one that you believe in, that touches you personally, where you feel your involvement makes a difference and actually moves the needle. And that's the one, or one could be one of several to support. So that's why I chose the Battle Buddy Foundation and Kenny. It's a way for me to heal, a way to make a difference in others who are still here.
I do look forward to hearing more about that on the podcast. That's a whole podcast right there.
Yeah, as do I.
Yeah. And well, this next question is going to seem rather trite after that, but
sure.
Do you have a business philosophy?
Don't lose money. Don't lose money. Right? No one likes to lose money. People hate to lose money. I remember one of my designations is the SEMA designation, and one of the parts is behavioral finance. And remember the one thing that stuck with me back in 2008 is, I think, when I obtained that designation, was the concept that it hurts people 3 times as much to lose $1 as it does to feel good by making $1. So if you lose $1, you have to make it 3 times as much to feel better about it. So our philosophy is your job, your career, your family, you've earned your wealth your way. If you come to us, it's more about preserving it. And so it's there for your future use to provide for your future lifestyle. If your lifestyle is covered, then you got your philanthropic desires, give back to the community however you want to support there. Or at the same time, it's for the next generation, positioning the next generation to accomplish their goals. So the number one thing is, don't lose money. People hate losing money. I hate losing money. Don't lose money.
Do you have any other designations?
Funny you should ask. Yeah, actually, most of my peers make fun of me because I have too many. They say, why do you have so many? And before I talk about them, people say, well, what if you, or in my own mind, it's like, what if I took the same time I spent studying to get all these designations and just prospected more? Like, where would I be today? I don't know. And sometimes it could be positioned as studying is a behavior avoidance from doing tasks you should do, as far as growing the business. And there could be some truth to that. But I've got several. I'll go through the order of how I obtain them. The first one, just to get a jail-free card. When I was in Merrill Lynch, I was getting referred a ton of 401k plans when I first started the industry from Paychex and ADP. There was a corporate relationship between Paychex and ADP and Merrill Lynch. And so that's, speaking accounting, I knew I want to work with business owners. That was the way in the door for me to build a relationship. So the first designation was the Chartered Retirement Plan Specialist, CRPS designation. That was really just showing that you have a mastery or deep understanding of retirement plans. And then with that, Merrill Lynch at the time had a certificate. If you made it the 5-year mark and you had one of 3 designations, and one of the designations that they offered is called the SEMA. If you had that designation, there was a $100,000 bonus. It's like, heck yeah, I want to get a $100,000 bonus. And so the SEMA was the second designation, and that's a Certified Investment Management Analyst designation that was put on by Wharton through University of Pennsylvania. And that was actually a very, very challenging designation, where it's more about investment analytics and running money and building portfolios. It's like a mini CFA. And so having those 2 designations actually was very interesting, and just happened to be what you needed. When Merrill Lynch failed, if you remember, in the last financial crisis in 2008, early 2009, UBS said, "Hey, Brett, we don't have a 401k specialist. Come over here." I said, "Okay." And they paid me to move over there. So I went over there. And to be a retirement plan specialist at UBS, you needed to have a certain designation, or need to have two designations, the CRPS and the SEMA. You had to have those two. And I just happened literally to have those two. It's like, oh, that's perfect. So yeah, I was one of 50 originally out of, I think at the time, I think UBS had close to 9 or 10,000 advisors. That's one of 50 to be a retirement plan consultant. And then you move up senior retirement plan consultant. So that was the foundation to be in the world. So that's two of my designations. And then as I worked through my career, understanding 401k for most employees or individuals, or yours, mine, it's your foundation for your future lifestyle. And the last thing you want to do is risk that. So then I started looking at risk. And then, so risk in the financial services world is really insurance, right? What do you insure? You have a house, you insure your house. You have a car, you insure your car. You have a wedding ring, you insure your wedding ring. You have kids, you insure your life. You insure everything. So why would you not insure your future lifestyle? Why would you leave your future lifestyle up to the stock market, which you have zero control of whatsoever? I said, well, how can I help manage this risk? And so I said, I need to learn more about this. And so then I went down the path to obtain the CLU, or Chartered Life Underwriter designation, which is pretty much a master's degree in life insurance. And I remember once I obtained that degree, UBS had this financial planning guru, and he was the insurance specialist. And I met with him and helped me understand. And I looked at his designation. He was a CFP. And like, that's one module of insurance. Like, I have 8 of insurance, the CLU. Like, I'm more qualified than you are, and you're an insurance specialist. Like, come on. I literally was the only CLU I ever met or ever knew of in my 10 years at UBS. That's the only one. No one else did it. No one else. And I just did it because I think knowledge is power. And I did it so I could be more skilled to help my clients address that risk. Because if you save all this money in your 401k and it's gone because you didn't protect it, well, then what do? Your future lifestyle is significantly diminished. So that's why I did that one. And then there was another designation, the credit investment fiduciary, which actually I had was at UBS as well. In 2009, I obtained that, but you couldn't put it on your business card. Because and the firm's rationale at the time was, if you put fiduciary on your card, that means you're a fiduciary for everything. But at the same time, you could sell commissionable products. So you can't sell commissionable products and have fiduciary in your card, because then you're not acting as a fiduciary, you're acting as a salesperson. So that's when the lawyers got involved and said, you can't put it on your card, you can't put it on your email, you can't put it anywhere. So I let it fade or just fall off. And then with my current firm, I can have the designation again. So I went back and retook it last year. So I have the AIF and credit investment fiduciary. And then that was kind of a catalyst, since I already had that one done. There is, and I'm part of NAPA, the National Association of Plan Advisors, is 401k advisors. And I went to their national conference, and they have a designation. And so, I'm in this designation phase, and I had momentum and inertia. Let me get that one. And that's the QPFA Qualified Plan Fiduciary Advisor. I have that one, which I obtained last fall. And I think that was good, but I skipped one. When I went independent and left UBS and started my own firm, which was Henderson Wealth Management, I realized that having a deeper connection with clients was everything to really understand who they are. And so I learned about a special designation, which I haven't met too many others of, the BFA, Behavioral Financial Advisor designation, BFA. And that's really about understanding clients' values and who they are and what drives them and who they support philanthropically and what foundations are important to them, or if they're family oriented versus maybe just they're a sports nut, right? So understanding a client's values can help me provide better advice. A quick example, say a client has an inheritance of $500,000 and I know they're very family oriented. Well, you can either go buy a couple cars, right? Or you can buy a vacation home to spend more time with your family. So we have an exercise we go through. We use value cards, and we do when we're onboarding. So we know the client's top 5 values. And if family is one of them, hey, Brett, should I buy this or that? Well, the advice is what will help you spend more time with your family, because you told me your family is one of your important values. And yeah, so it would be, okay, how do we accomplish this? So we take a client's values into consideration before making any investment recommendations. That's the BFA. So you kind of put all that together. That's 6. So again, CRPS, SEMA, AIF, QPFA, BFA, CLU, and then actually tomorrow morning. So by the time anyone's hearing this, hopefully I'll have a 7th designation, and that's the CEPA, Certified Exit Planning Advisor. And that's really kind of the icing on the cake with everything I've been doing for almost 20 years. It's being able to help that business owner maximize the value of their business. So if and when they decide to sell, they get the maximum amount they can for their business. And it could be just passing it down to their children. It could be to an outside buyer, could be to a strategic buyer, could be to the public with an M&A firm or a private equity group. But helping a business owner really understand their business, put processes, procedures in place where they can maximize the value of that business so they get the biggest bang for their buck when they actually do exit is kind of the icing on the cake for someone's career. And as I'm going through my own career, I look at that. So that's about ultimately what I want to do with myself. And so it's kind of taking my own medicine, so to speak, preparing my own firm, my own business, or if and when I ever want to exit, how do we get the maximum value for my own firm? Right. And so if I can help someone else with that same goal, that's a win-win for me. And so those are my designations.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is your primer on financial designations. All right, Brett, let's get out of the office.
Okay.
When you're not working, what do you do for fun?
My son is my life. So I have a 5-year-old son, Lucas, and he is just amazing. He keeps me on my toes. I absolutely love spending time with him to the point, actually, in the last couple of years, I've intentionally taken every Wednesday afternoon off and Thursday morning off just to completely unplug and spend time with him. I'm not with his mom, so we have a custody arrangement. I have about 40% of the time. So when I have him, I do everything I can to be 100% present and 100% focused. And so every other Monday, I'm really disconnected. Giselle's holding down the fort. Again, Wednesdays, Giselle's holding down the fort, and Thursday mornings, Giselle's holding down the fort. He has special needs, so I take him to speech therapy and feeding therapy and occupational therapy, but he's a happy little dude and it's just the light of my life. So I enjoy spending time with him. And so one thing he loves to do, what I used to love doing before I had him, is going camping, exploring. I actually have a Jeep. I have the same Jeep I've owned since I was a lieutenant in the Marine Corps, bought it in 1998. You'll find I hold vehicles for way too long, but it's just what I do.
Being thrifty.
Right. I've literally owned it since 98. And it's great to go camping. I have a refrigerator in it. We go all sorts of lights and big tires and go everywhere. And I have a group that goes out exploring all over the deserts and in Southern California, the mountains, the old ghost towns and gold mines that are out here. And as he's getting older, have him and his stuff. And then if Giselle wants to come, it's a little too small for the Jeep, but now we have a Sequoia that we're building out, more of a kind of overlanding vehicle and refrigerator in the backs, and to be comfortable, and shower systems and lights and all this stuff. So we can go out, be comfortable and explore. So I love going out, getting out of LA and just going out in the deserts and the mountains and getting lost. So I enjoy that whenever I can. Try and do it at least once or twice a month, just get out and go. Gas prices right now, it's not as appealing. That definitely is a primer that impacts things when you get 11 to 12 miles a gallon. So we're not going quite as much right now, but camping and exploring is something I love to do with my son. Yeah, those are the big things.
Now, besides buying a new vehicle, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do?
It's one of those things where I don't have all the money in the world, so it's not an option. I'm more of a realist. So I've never thought about that because I just deal with realism. If I want something, I'll work for it to achieve it, to go get it. But if I had all the money in the world, obviously I would make a huge donation to many different veterans organizations around the world, also animal organizations too. I love animals. I've been to Kruger Park in South Africa, and you see what the poachers are doing to elephants and the rhinos there. It's pretty horrible. So if I could do anything to help save animals there, and then in Sumatra, you have the orangutan and the rainforest there, and they have some challenges with deforestation and whatnot. So if I could do things to save animals and save the world and help animals live and coincide with us, that would be amazing. Help veterans. stay with us, that would be amazing. And kids with special needs, yeah, if we could do anything to help give back there. And then family, you learn things, and Parkinson's, whatnot, would be another place to give back and try and eliminate Parkinson's. I've had that in my family a little bit too, with some family members, and who knows, I may get it myself. You never know, but that would be nice if we could help rid the world of those ailments too. So a lot of things, if I had all the money in the world.
All right. Now I want you to tell me one thing that most people don't know about you. I love this question.
Right. Well, I didn't even know it myself until maybe 2 months ago when my son just turned 5. And I know no one can see the background behind me, but I'm a train nut. So, and I say it's for my son, but it's for me. And so once he turned 5, we had all the little wooden Brio trains, and we'd make tracks and push them around. But once he turned 5, we went and found a model railroad club in San Pedro, and they have a huge layout. It's on an old Navy base. And I was just hooked, and you can just buy a locomotive or two and come hang out, run with us. Oh, you get 1, then you get 2, then you get 3. And then you have to set up a layout. And then so I take over the living room, and my son absolutely loves it. So we just play trains. So I'm a train nut. And I didn't know it was a train nut. So it's kind of a new thing that maybe everybody knows or doesn't know, but it's just neat. The historical aspect of it. Like, running trains is one thing, but learning the history. So I'm a history buff, and learning how do the railroads come about, and which railroads were doing what, where, why, when, and how did they make money, and passenger versus freight, and the technology goes into it. There's so much into it besides just a train. It's really amazing, but that's maybe something I didn't even know a few months ago, but it's all come out. And so I'm kind of bearing myself. And as you go through life, you have different objectives, your different phases, right? You elementary school, learn to ride a bike, and then high school, learn to drive a car. And that's a big deal. In college, and then to graduate, again, your first job, then your kids, and your first house. And you go through all these milestones, and then you figure out, okay, what do I want to do? What skill set am I lacking? And then you just bury yourself in it, or at least I do. And so learning trains, I don't think there's
drive a train, right?
Right. I mean, I don't know if I can do the most career stuff with it, but it's super fun and a nice outlet away from the professional side of my career.
Well, I got one last question for you. With everything in mind here, the focus, the joy you find in so many things, do you have a mantra or a motto that you use to stay on track? And I don't mean that as a pun with the trains.
No, not at all. Not at all. I'd say I just wake up, tell myself, let's go, get up and go, do it. Like, not the Nike, but just go. Life kicks you in the face. We've all had challenges. We have good days and bad days. And it seems like no one can talk about their bad days anymore because that's taboo and you have to be positive all the time. But life isn't always easy, and there are obstacles, and you don't always get into your first college. You don't always get the first job you want. You don't always land every client you want. And in business, everything's not perfect. You don't always keep the right employees. You don't always keep the right account. Your technology doesn't always work. There are always things kicking you in the face, and you can just sit there and, oh, woe is me. Or like, okay, that hurt. Get up, go. Get up, drive on, keep moving, keep pushing forward, never stop. And so that's really it. Just go, keep going. No matter what, you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, but just keep going and never stop. Because if you're not going forward, you're just sitting there, and then life comes down, shrinks around you. And if you're not growing and moving forward, you're dying. You're going to stay. And so that's life. I think it's a journey, and we drive. You either drive the bus drives over you, right? So I'd rather drive the bus and have the bus drive over me.
All right. How can listeners reach you, Brett?
Several ways. LinkedIn. I think this is going to be on LinkedIn, and just Brett Henderson at LinkedIn. You can message me there. Our website's our new website. We can talk about the rebrand and why and all that good stuff, but Strategic Wealth Endeavor 90.com. So SWE90.com. And we can talk about what that means, or where we came up with that, or why that's meaningful. Everyone's, why do you have a number in your email or your website? It's weird and different. And have you met me? I'm a little weird and different. That's okay. But so SWE90.com, you can find us there. And just my email, Brett at SWE90.com, Brett at SWE90.com. And if you want to call us, that's okay too. Ring Central, phone rings everywhere, 310-491-7045, 310-491-7045.
Thank you so much, Brett. For all
Thank
you
you.
listeners, follow this podcast to make sure you know when a new episode is ready for you. And don't be greedy. Share this with friends and colleagues. They'll appreciate it. I'm Patrice Sikora, and let's talk again later.
Thank you for listening to the Veteran Entrepreneur Masterclass podcast. Don't forget to click the follow button to become notified when new episodes become available. Securities offered through IFP Securities LLC, DBA Independent Financial Partners, IFP, member FINRA, and SIPC. Investment advice offered through IFP Investors LLC, DBA Independent Financial Partners, IFP, a registered investment advisor. IFP and Strategic Wealth Endeavor INC are not affiliated. The views expressed are that of the host and are for informational purposes only, and in no event should be construed as an offer to buy or sell securities. Opinions expressed are subject to change without notice and do not take into account the particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs of individual investors. Neither IFP Investors LLC, IFP Securities LLC, DBA Independent Financial Partners, IFP, nor their affiliates offer tax or legal advice. Interested parties are strongly encouraged to seek advice from qualified tax and or legal experts regarding the best options for your particular circumstances. The information given herein is taken from sources that IFP Advisors LLC, DBA Independent Financial Partners.